So a couple months ago, I submitted an application for Rhodes Master Your Craft internship. And after a couple of months of refreshing the page every day, Rhodes finally announced the winners. And I was not one of them. Now, as someone who tries to put themselves out there a lot, this has become a familiar experience for me. Trying and failing. It doesn't feel good. And chances are, if you're a human person, you know what I'm talking about. Now, I think one of the biggest differences between people who go far and people who don't is the way that they deal with rejection and failure. And the ones who never let those things make them quit are the ones who ultimately get to spend enough time becoming an expert at something to be really great. But failing sucks. It literally hurts. And it hurts even more when you've really put yourself out there and you're told flat out you're not good enough. And that feeling sucks so much that it's what makes a lot of people quit, so they don't have to feel that anymore. But why does it feel so shitty to fail? Everyone does it, so why is it so uncomfortable when it happens to us? Well, I think a lot of this has to do with the way our culture views failure. We've been taught to avoid it at all costs, even to the point of not trying something for fear that we might fail at it. And there's such a negative connotation on failure, like only weak people fail. And as humans, we want to believe that we can do anything. But failure says, no, actually, no, you can't. And then there's social media, making it even easier for us to hide our failures. We present only the triumphs and successes to make it seem like we don't fail. But then when we do, it feels like we're the only ones. Everyone else seems to be doing so great. Why do I suck so much? Now, I'll be honest with you, I have failed a lot. But I finally come to realize how much of a strength that is, because failing is the best way to grow. Now, this is a pretty basic concept. When you fail, you learn something. We experience this a lot as children, but then as we get older, it becomes less socially acceptable for us to fail. And we forget that we actually need it. Growth through failure, or as my acting teacher calls it, failing forward. Now, to me, this means the more I put myself out there, and the bigger the chances I take, the more room I have to fail, and the more room I have to grow. But to keep doing that, you have to learn ways to get comfortable with that uncomfortable feeling of failing. One thing that helped me a lot with this was checking my expectations. I used to think that there was some kind of inherent talent that I needed to have in order to succeed. And then when I failed, it felt like a sign that I wasn't meant to do this with my life. But then eventually I realized that you can't just be good at something. You have to work for a long time to become good at something. You have to repeat that cycle of failure and growth as many times as you can. But let's talk about that cycle of failure and growth. It can really fucking suck. Every time I start on a project, I'm consumed by a blaze of inspiration and confidence, filled with excitement about the potential of the idea. And then it seems like as soon as I finish it, as soon as it's out of my hands and into the world, I notice all the things I hate about it. All the things I wish I did differently. Oh, if I'd only done this, or if I'd only known that. I'm sure you're familiar with that post-project feeling that it's still not as good as you'd like it to be, but you have to ask yourself, what's the alternative? If you finish a project and you say, this is my best work, and there's not a thing I'd change, that's almost worse, because it means you've stopped growing. I never want to stop failing because I never want to stop getting better. And honestly, the more you repeat that cycle of failure and growth, the easier it gets. Until eventually, the failure just inspires you to work harder to improve. I am honestly excited for the new and disastrous ways I'll fail, because I know that if I embrace those things, they'll make me better. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Alex Killian, and I'll see you next time.